Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. I'm here with Jason Nixon, the Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services, His Worship Richard Ireland, the Mayor of Jasper, and Kristen Chambers, the CAO of the Evergreens Foundation. We're here today to announce our government's latest actions to support the recovery efforts of the community of Jasper. The Alberta government remains steadfast in its collaboration with the town and our partners, working diligently to rebuild what was lost and to restore the spirit of Jasper. We understand the tremendous challenges faced by all in the wake of the wildfires, and we are committed to ensuring that the people of Jasper receive the support they need during this difficult time. To address the unique challenges that lie ahead, we must tackle several issues to meet the needs of the town and ensure that the rebuilding efforts move forward without delay. It's heartbreaking to acknowledge that around 30% of structures in Jasper were lost, including homes that held cherished memories and businesses that are vital to the community's heartbeat. As we embark on this journey of rebuilding, the need for temporary housing is more crucial than ever. That's why we're gathered here today to announce our plans to provide interim housing for Jasper, allowing residents to return home and start the healing process. With that, I invite Minister Nixon to share the details of how we will support those who are dedicated to rebuilding and sustaining the town.
Well, thanks, Marty, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. First, let me start by recognizing Martin Long as the MLA for this very important community. Martin truly has been a tireless advocate for Jasper since the very first day of the emergency. He's an extraordinarily strong voice for his constituents at the Jasper Recovery Committee and is doing everything he can to be able to make sure that our province's response to the Jasper wildfire actually meets the needs of his community. I want to thank all of you for being here today for today's announcement. I'm very excited to be joined today by my colleague, MLA Martin Long, His Worship Richard Ireland, Mayor of Jasper, Kristen Chambers, who's the CEO of the Evergreen Foundation, who are all with us today, and I want to thank them for taking the time. Nearly 3 months ago, people from around the world watched in horror as pictures were shared of the wildfire in Jasper. I know I speak for all Albertans when I say Jasper holds a special place in all our hearts. It's one of the crown jewels of the Rockies, it's one of the crown jewels of our province, and a place that holds over a century of our country's history. But most importantly, words cannot describe the loss felt by Jasper residents at the devastating impact of the fire. In a single night, Jasper lost around 30% of the structures in their town. And while firefighting efforts were able to save much of the key infrastructure and many businesses, many in the town lost their homes. In the last 3 months, I've seen firsthand the resilience of Jasperites as they work to reopen businesses, return home, and embark on the hard work to rebuild their community. But one of the biggest barriers that has been identified to the province is the severe lack of housing for residents as they rebuild their homes to be able to provide essential services and to rebuild the local economy. Early on in the recovery process, Alberta's government recognized the unique challenge of rebuilding Jasper in a national park where there are very few communities nearby to live in during the rebuild process. That's why the Premier instructed my department to develop a plan for interim housing to support Jasperites while they rebuild their homes. We understand that it is crucial that Jasperites look to come back to Jasper during this rebuilding process, have somewhere to live. Today, I'm happy to say that we are taking a significant step in supporting that rebuilding effort in Jasper and helping members of the community look forward to returning home. Today, Alberta's government is announcing that it will be immediately investing a total of $112 million to build interim housing for Jasper residents while the community rebuilds. This funding will provide 250 modular homes in the Jasper town site for individuals and families who lost their residence during the fire. These are not temporary structures or camps. These will be permanent homes that will be fully serviced and will provide a safe place to call home for displaced Jasperites. Servicing work has already started on these sites to prepare them for homes to be installed. And based on site servicing timelines and available inventory of modular homes in Alberta, we expect that these homes will be available as early as January 2025. Modular homes will be constructed off-site in a controlled environment to allow for all-season construction and accelerated construction schedules. These interim housing units will be provided at market rent, and applications and eligibility details will be released in the short future. We know that time is of the essence and winter weather is upon us, and we will ensure these interim homes are in place as quickly and efficiently as possible by taking advantage of modular technology. These homes will provide an important foundation while rebuilding efforts in Jasper continue. We also recognize that the housing shortage in Jasper predates the summer's wildfire. Once the rebuilding process is complete, Alberta's government intends to sell the homes on the market to address existing staff shortage of accommodations inside Jasper. All levels of government are eager to see Jasper rebuilt as fast as possible, and we are seeing progress each and every day. These interim housing units will support the recovery process by ensuring that more Jasperites can stay in town while they rebuild their homes, their businesses, and their community. Also, as many of you are aware, we also lost the Pine Grove Seniors Manor in the fire, which displaced 32 seniors who called that building home. From day one, we have been in close contact with the Evergreens Foundation, the local housing provider, to ensure that seniors were safe and had a place to go. And currently, Pine Grove Manor residents are located in hotels, with family, or in other facilities across the province. As part of our interim housing work, Alberta's government will also be building up to 25 modular homes in Hinton for displaced Pine Grove Manor residents to live in while the manor is rebuilt. These units will be built on land that has been given to the Alberta Social Housing Corporation by the town of Hinton and is located directly next to the Pine Valley Seniors Lodge in the community of Hinton. Site work has already begun, and the first seniors are expected to begin to move in as early 2025. And we know that there is also a need for affordable housing in Hinton. So our plan is to use these prefabricated units as affordable housing in the Hinton area once seniors have returned home to Jasper. These seniors are valuable members of the Jasper community, and we look forward to having them closer to home in the near future. We continue to engage with the community and our partners to help provide long-term housing solutions in Jasper and the Hinton area. This afternoon, I will be traveling with my Deputy Minister to Hinton and Jasper to meet with representatives in both communities, and will be touring the interim housing sites. Today's announcement represents a major investment by our government in support of displaced individuals by this summer's wildfire. And it's an important step forward in rebuilding Jasper so that it is stronger than ever. In closing, I want to thank the town of Jasper, the town of Hinton, and the Evergreens Foundation for working closely with the province on developing this interim housing plan. And I want to thank all members of the Jasper community who have demonstrated incredible resilience and positivity in the face of what is truly a difficult loss. Alberta's government will continue to be here to support the community of Jasper as it heals and as it rebuilds. And with that, I will now invite His Worship, Mayor Ireland, to say a few words to you. Thank you very much. Mayor. Good to see us. I was not going to step on that and add another 5 inches.
Well, thank you very much, Minister Nixon, for that really welcome announcement. On behalf of the people of Jasper, I want to take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Government of Alberta, to Minister Nixon, for their critical support in funding interim housing as we continue on this imperative journey to rebuild our community. This funding is so much more than simply a financial boost. It is a veritable lifeline for many of our residents who have faced such tremendous challenges in recent months. For the people of Jasper, our lives, our stories, our aspirations, and those of our friends and neighbors were so tragically and deeply impacted just 3 months ago. For us, this housing is more than simply replacing housing, buildings, and structures. It is inextricably linked to our social and to our economic recovery. It provides the sense of stability so essential for families and individuals who have been uprooted, unsettled, and left so vulnerable in the face of such upheaval and uncertainty. The very same families and individuals who are indispensable to reviving and sustaining our critical visitor economy. By creating safe, secure, and appropriate places to live, we are fostering a sense of belonging, which is vital for community healing. In these challenging times, we recognize, too, the profound impact that secure housing has on the mental well-being of our residents. When people have a place to call home, they can better cope with all of life's pressures and challenges. They can focus on rebuilding their lives, pursuing their employment opportunities, and nurturing the connections that define a cohesive and vibrant community. In Jasper, as elsewhere, housing is more than just shelter. It is the foundation of hope and the cornerstone of resilience. We are deeply appreciative of the Government of Alberta's unwavering commitment to supporting us in our recovery. Their demonstrated belief in our community acts as a powerful connector as we come together to restore our housing infrastructure and the very spirit of Jasper. The support announced today reaffirms that we are not alone in our efforts. We are supported by a government that recognizes the importance of community. As we continue to move forward, I invite all of us to continue to support one another. Now more than ever is the time to uplift each other, to work in unison with everyone who is committed to a future where every resident is housed and feels safe, valued, and connected. I am confident that together we will rebuild and will emerge stronger than ever. Jasper will shine brightly and will thrive economically and socially once again. So again, I thank the Government of Alberta and all of you for your continued support and dedication to the recovery of our community, Jasper. And I think Kristen will speak
John,
next.
yep.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, let's do that.
Dance around.
The microphone just keeps getting lower. Well, thank you very much. So today's announcement makes good on a promise that the Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services made to us in the early hours after the loss of our Pine Grove Seniors facility. Minister Nixon promised a short, a medium, and a long-term solution to housing for our seniors. With today's announcement, we now have a commitment for a medium-term solution. This housing commitment provides our seniors with the hope and stability in incredibly uncertain times. It's encouraging to see how the province has kept this vulnerable population in the forefront of their decision-making as they navigate the incredible complexities of this Jasper wildfire. This housing solution will help displace Jasper seniors, but will also be a long-term investment in housing for the West Yellowhead region. This investment will bring the displaced seniors community from the Pine Grove Manor to a place where they can once again be familiar and a place with their support network of each other. And this is the support that they have been so badly missing since the fire. They were a very close-knit group, and they're very excited to be back together again soon. The Evergreens Foundation is proud to work together with the province to move forward on this project with haste. We continue to keep the needs of the seniors who built our province in the forefront as we work together during this Jasper recovery. I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Minister Nixon, as well as to our MLA, Martin Long, for his absolute, unwavering, and relentless advocacy in ensuring that this important piece of Jasper's interim housing strategy remained and will continue to remain a paramount focus for this government. Thank you so much.
We'll now open it up to questions from the media. Reminder to please state your name and outlet, and we'll be taking one question and one follow-up today. We'll start in the room. Chi, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you. For the minister, you mentioned 250 modular homes. Do you happen to know what the need is in terms of how many people are in regard need that placement, and in terms of the market value, like how much are they looking at in terms of rent?
So we didn't just randomly pick a number. We actually worked very closely with the town of Jasper, who had some outside consulting services that was assessing need. Municipal Affairs has participated in that process. And from there, we've received that number and then reacted to the number. So the work to be able to determine the need has been primarily done by the town of Jasper and Municipal Affairs through the emergency recovery process. The 250 number is the number that came back. We're pretty confident in it. That said, we have the ability to be able to ramp up more if we needed to. We'll watch and see how it goes. We also have the ability in this plan to be able to go with less if we need to, and we'll start with phase one and we'll see what the demand is and then react accordingly. It's very hard to completely predict what's going to take place. Obviously, I mean, you're dealing with most people who are insured. Many people may make determinations to want to stay elsewhere. And so we'll have to see how it goes, but we're pretty confident in the assessment process. As for the value moves up and down slightly depending on the unit. What we did do is we went out, we did a request for information from all of the modular manufacturing partners that we already use through the work that we do on affordable housing. They came back and gave us the confidence that they could be able to meet that 250 units together. Some of the units are one room, some of the units will be two, and so it varies in price. But it's going to take the number for the total project we're very confident in.
And in terms of what took the time to get here, I understand obviously the government's on all levels have been working quickly, but I know that the Premier on a radio show had talked about an initial bid that came back was unsuccessful. I think she cited due to cost. I guess, can you talk to me a little bit about the challenges in arriving here?
You know, there's not a lot of examples like Jasper that we can look upon where we've had to deal with circumstances like this. High River would come to mind on the flooding side, but significantly closer to a large city. I mean, it's not a very significant commute to Calgary, and at that time there was significant capacity between High River and Calgary to be able to help those who are waiting for their homes. Fort McMurray, of course, is another example, but they had very lots of vacancy within Fort McMurray right after that fire that we were able to use, and so there was not as much of a need to be able to create structures. Jasper is far away from everything else because that's what Jasper is. Hinton being the closest. Hinton was already struggling with vacancy rates, and so those two communities, it was clear, was not going to have the capacity to do it, and then you end up in just way too long of a commute. We went and looked at traditional ways that have been used in the past, primarily camp models. We're Albertans. That was often the first instinct when we were looking at this. The reality is that the price for camps came back between $8,500 and $9,500 a person a month. One of the big challenges was to provide food, because once you go to the camp model, there was not the ability to have the ability to be able to prepare food for one's own family, and that added up over the time of the rebuild. We also saw both in High River and Fort McMurray where camps were used that they were not widely used by individuals who lost their homes. Again, most of these homes are insured, so those users are working with their insurance provider, and were often able to provide something that was just much more comfortable for their family during the rebuild than a camp. So we realized that that wasn't going to work, which is why we decided to come up with something that's very unique. Whether or not we would use this option in a community that was not Jasper, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how it goes in the coming months. But the reality is this is the only way to be able to create something that would be able to make home for those who lost their homes during the extended period of time that it would take to construct their new homes.
Thank you. Just a reminder to state your name and outlet.
Hi, Jonathan Bradley, Western Standard. So you spoke about the details with this housing plan and it allocating $12 million to build these homes in the Jasper area. What was the process like for establishing this plan?
Well, we went through the Recovery Committee meets every Thursday. The Jasper Recovery Committee provincially, this has been not the only topic, obviously, every week, but it has been a topic every week as we work through that process. First was we had to determine the need to be able to understand what needed to be built, and that was a process led by Municipal Affairs in partnership with Jasper. Once my department had a need assessment that we could work towards a number, we compiled several options for the committee, and it was quickly determined that the camp model or more temporary structures would not accommodate what we were trying to accomplish in Jasper. And so therefore we went out with a request for information from all of our manufacturing home providers who provided us input back that made us confident that they could accomplish this. And then we just went through a standard cabinet process at that point, putting together a package, getting it approved by cabinet and getting it approved by Treasury Board. I should say we've also spoken to the federal government about this. We strongly believe the feds should participate in this. I have some indication that they may. We are waiting to hear back from them, but the reality is that I don't think Jasper can wait while we wait for the federal government to decide whether or not they want to come to the table on this, and that we need to be able to make sure that we move forward.
My follow-up question is on an off-topic matter. So a number of Alberta cabinet ministers have said that they have attended various Edmonton Oilers games, receiving various VIP tickets. Nate Horner, Nathan Newdorf, Danielle Smith. Were you among the cabinet ministers who took VIP tickets?
I can't recall the last time I've been at an Oilers game, but I can tell you that certainly was not this term, and we're probably looking back, 6 or 7 years. So the answer to your question is no.
Yeah, Catherine Gurkowski, Alberta Today. I'm wondering, when you're talking about market rates for the rent, how do you prevent gouging or exploitation?
Well, we're the landlord, so that's how we prevent that. We will determine a market rate very similar to what is being charged in Jasper, likely be a little bit less. The key to this plan is that, though, because we have rules. in place during insurable disasters that require insurance to pay for their end of it. And so we have to create something that is a vessel for that to take place. We've worked closely with insurance companies. They're very comfortable with this. This is the model that they would normally use. And so essentially this would be like when there was a fire in Fort McMurray, insurance was paying rent for individuals to be able to go into some sort of temporary accommodation that existed within the Fort McMurray community. The challenge here is we don't have anything like that exist in Jasper. So we're using the Social Housing Corporation to create what that entity to be there, and then we'll charge appropriate rent through insurance providers for those individuals to have a home to stay in while they wait for their home to be rebuilt.
And Jasper is obviously a very unique community in terms of like the building code standards and stuff. Was there anything unique about the modular homes? Did you have to have them built in?
Well, I mean, I don't want anybody to be leaving with an impression that these would be like traditional, what you would think about when you would think of a trailer park. I mean, this is high-end manufacturing process. These homes will come with, at the end of the day, roads will be built, sidewalks will be built, fully landscaped and fully serviced. They are at a very high quality. The national park brings all sorts of extra considerations. I'll probably let the mayor supplement this in a moment. But we're very confident that the product that we're bringing to Jasper will fit within any of the rules. I will also say one of the things that we've been working on closely with the federal government and they have recently just passed legislation, is to help us be able to speed up that permitting process and to recognize that they are the landowner. The locations where these interim homes will take place, the leases are already available. We are very confident that, as I said, we've already started construction on them. So we're not anticipating any major challenges. And I think the fact that we're coming in and there's only one builder, in this case, we may be using different contractors, but the Alberta government, that will also help speed up the process because we're not dealing with multiple different contractors during that process. Mayor, I don't know if you want to add anything to the speed process. Nope. They're going to approve the permits.
We'll take a break in the room and move over to the phones. Just a reminder to ask a question, please ensure you are not on speakerphone when using your keypad and press *1 to enter the queue. If you press *1 before the media avail begin, please press *1 again, as this feature is not active while you are on hold. Operator, can you please put through our first caller?
First question is from Kelly Reiterman from the Globe and Mail.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my question. Mayor Ireland, you've spoken this month about your concern that there's fighting and politicking over this devastating wildfire for your community. What do you want to see happen? What kind of cooperation amongst the different levels of government do you want to see?
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that question. What I hope to see is exactly what I have seen and heard today, and that is a concerted effort by all levels of government who are prepared to partner with us to rebuild our community. So you heard the minister earlier today talking about funding for the $112 million that was announced this morning in terms of the interim housing cost. He brought this forward today knowing that there is an outstanding discussion with his federal counterparts about contribution. But rather than enter into that discussion now and delay the rebuild for Jasper, he is prepared to put the money on the table and have those discussions later. That's exactly the approach that I was encouraging a couple of weeks ago when I spoke to the issue of rhetoric getting in the way. It was more than that in other cases, but the point is, we have a job to do. The people of Jasper are relying on us to get this housing in the ground so they have an opportunity to have housing and they can then start with others in their community to rebuild their lives and our economic livelihood. It is critical stuff. It cannot be delayed on the basis of factional sparring between partners. And that's all we're asking for, is that we all approach this in a collaborative effort, and we're seeing that today. And again, I thank Minister Nixon. I thank our MLA, Martin Long, for showing that they are committed, and their first commitment is to our community. They will deal with other issues later. And I support the fact that this is something that goes to all of us, and we are all committed to the rebuild. And even at the federal level, I think that they recognize that for this housing option, this is something that could potentially fall within the DFAA, and I encourage them to look strongly at that. In the meantime, again, just my deep gratitude to the province of Alberta and Minister Nixon for making this funding available now and putting aside those partisan fights that we have seen in the past. Thank you again for the question, Kelly.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Minister Nixon, you suggested you're going forward with this right away. You're not going to wait. It's no secret that your government and the federal Liberal government often butt heads on different issues. Are you facing any pushback on anything you want to do from this government? Are you having any trouble working with this federal government on this particular issue in the rebuild of Jasper?
Well, on this particular issue, certainly not. I mean, because we're just moving forward without the feds. We hope that they will participate, but we think this is an important enough issue that we will move forward. I have met with the feds. They're aware of the plan. We have some indication they may have more to say in the days to come, but we can't wait any longer for that conversation to take place for two reasons. One is that the people of Jasper need us to take an action. And second, I think we have to recognize the reality of what is taking place in Ottawa right now, that we don't know exactly what may take place as far as an election. And so I don't want to see that being held up in that type of a conversation. That we see the need for speed right now for the people that matter, and then we'll figure out some of these details later.
Thank you, operator. Next caller, please.
The next one is from Bob Covey from Jasper Local.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my call. This is for Minister Nixon, please. I'm curious how the definition of essential and screened vulnerable residents is being articulated currently by the government of Alberta and the Jasper Recovery Coordination Centre. Have you factored in the needs of retired Jasperites whose situation might not be strictly defined as being engaged with essential work? Thank you.
The priority for these 250 units will be for individuals who have lost their homes in Jasper. And are first working and are contributing to the rebuild, first and foremost. And then second, for anybody who has, like we be in a retirement situation, secondary. Not because we don't see them as important to return to the community. It's clear that obviously the number one thing we need to do is return individuals back to the community with a place to live that provides some level of essential services. But the goal of these 250 units is to provide housing to people in Jasper that lost their homes, so that we can take the time and rebuild the community appropriately. We have to stress there was already a shortage of housing in Jasper, and so that adds some level of a challenge here. The work that we're doing here today is to be able to deal with the immediate need of losing 1/3 of residents in the town. I think one of the excellent parts of this plan is that this will also be something that can help alleviate some of that long-term housing pressure as the new permanent houses come back online, because we're going with a more permanent model. The Alberta government is investing in much more permanent structures rather than a camp model. So we have an opportunity to deal with that long-term housing challenge in Jasper, but our priority right now is to deal with the individuals who've lost their homes.
Bob, do you have a follow-up?
Thanks so much for that, Minister. My follow-up was regarding what the interim housing will be used for after Jasperites using it will return to their homes. So, yeah, maybe if you don't mind just elaborating on that a little bit, please. What is the vision right now for that housing in the long-term future?
So two things. First is that every effort will be made to sell that into the existing Jasper housing market in a controlled way that would not hurt the market. Some of that housing may end up being used for traditional affordable housing needs in Jasper as well. And then anything that we needed that was above capacity, we would take those structures, they're very mobile, and would move them elsewhere in the province to be able to deal with some challenges that we see on the work that we're doing on affordable housing on some remote First Nation communities or those other type of aspects. Having said that, if you look at the demand in Jasper, the reality is that all 250 units may end up remaining full-time in Jasper. We'll have to see how it progresses. But the neat part about the assets that we're using is it gives us options to be able to utilize them elsewhere to deal with other challenges.
Wonderful. We'll come back to the room for questions. Just a reminder to state your name and outlet.
Jack Farrell with the Canadian Press. I'm hoping you can break down how many are going to be single family home, or not like single units, like studio size for one person? That's my point. Or family units. Like, what's the breakdown there?
I don't have that breakdown today. We are very comfortable that we can meet the demand that we've seen through the needs assessments, and as we begin this process, it's part of the reason why I'm headed to Jasper, so we can lay out how we're going to do that very quickly. We'll have more to say in the coming weeks.
I'm assuming you have the same answer, but so it says in the release there that eligibility is still being determined. But to last I kind of remembered, and maybe this is a question for Mayor Ireland, is that most of the essential workers have already been housed in some form, whether that's hotels, friends' houses, what have you, Airbnb. Is that going to change now? Like, we're going to have these 250 units and those essential workers will take those over, and it's kind of creating that the hotel rooms were empty for the non-essential workers, and I know you don't like that term, so workers of a certain sector, I guess is a better way to say that.
Well, first, the long-term goal is not to keep Jasper's hotels full of residents, because we want to get Jasper's tourism industry back up and fully running. So one of the reasons why we're making this investment is so that we can build capacity that we lost, unfortunately, in the fire, and we will continue to do that. Look, I think that the term essential worker or non-essential worker is confusing. It's not a term that I would work or use. I want to be very clear that this housing is for people that have lost their homes in the fire. And those homes could be owned, they could have been rented, they could, whatever in individual circumstances would be, so that they can return to the community, work and operate that community while we build their permanent housing. I don't know, Mayor, if you have anything you want to add to that.
Well, thank you, Jack. And you are right. The priority is to house workers engaged in providing essential services. So a softer way of getting to that point. And some of them now are housed in hotel rooms, which is great. And we thank those hotels who have offered that room availability. But it does compromise the ability then of the entire community to restore our economic base. For those workers providing essential services who are now housed in hotels, presumably they will move to the new units, the 250 units, and it will be a mix of shared accommodation and 2- and 3-bedroom family units. So we don't know those details yet. Those are being worked on. There will be some movement. That will free up hotel rooms. It will be a decision then for hoteliers to decide whether they want to continue to provide that opportunity, and some I'm sure will, which will then give additional space for other workers in the community who have lost their homes. And some hotels have committed until spring, and we understand from this announcement today that we could have residents moving into this interim housing provided by the province as early as January. If there are several months left, then there will be additional housing made available because of that transition. Priority still with the new housing going to workers providing essential services and the most vulnerable population, but that will free up other rooms as you speculate. And so we will see how it plays out, but I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Emmanuel Prince, Radio Canada. Just follow along for that question. It's going to be kind of long, but so I understand there have been a lot of short-term solutions, bylaw changes, such as permitting residents to park their RV on the street overnight. Now that has ended. People are housed in hotel rooms. From my understanding, starting next month, the government or the municipality won't pay for those hotel rooms anymore. So I understand in January, maybe in the spring, there's going to be interim housing, but in the meanwhile, it's still going to be a tough patch for the people. Yeah.
I will let the minister speak to the ongoing financial support for that housing. My understanding is that it is not coming to an end, that it has been extended. And yes, people have found lots of creative solutions. We have assisted. We've allowed, as you noted, trailers to park on the street and be plugged into electrical outlets and water from houses that remain in the community. We had programmed that so that administration could make the final decision as to when they needed access to plow streets. I understand there's snow on the ground there this morning. So we are at that critical juncture where that becomes impractical. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other options that have been created. And of course, people sharing accommodations and rooms in houses that hadn't otherwise been done. And it has been spectacular how the community has worked together to solve so many of these issues. And so we did the housing needs assessment early on, back in the summer when we were still trying to configure what we needed, which has resulted in this announcement of 250 units today. Much has changed. Some of those people have, have made arrangements which will get them through until their houses are rebuilt. Some have made more short-term accommodation, but they don't know what will come after that. It is an ongoing reassessment almost on a daily basis, but it is critical that we get started, and the minister has spoken to that a couple of times. We need to get these units in the ground as soon as possible and get people in them. That is now underway. We've already begun the site servicing work so that there will be a place to land these modular homes when they're available. The minister has spoken to the fact that the numbers are uncertain. I think it most unlikely that any of these 250 units won't stay there permanently. Prior to the fire, we had a deficit of about 600 at least people in our housing needs or who had housing needs. We lost, I think, 820 units through the fire. So multiple structures had multiple units in them, so that the 360 structures that were destroyed equates to roughly 820 units. So the need is great. The need was great before the fire. It's much more pronounced now. The sooner we can get these 250 units in the ground and occupied, the better. And the more people can help themselves by finding their own solutions, the better for everyone. And we encourage them to do that. We understand that they need help, and we're providing whatever help we can. But people have been wonderful in their outreach and support of each other, and that continues, and that will continue. So the needs will continually be reassessed and will continually fluctuate.
Do you have a follow-up?
Well, actually, I'm going to answer if I could. Just to supplement the mayor's answer, I want to reiterate my confidence that the 250 units would be needed even if there wasn't a fire as far as capacity. I mean, there's no way we can guarantee that, but I do think that it's one of the uniqueness of opportunities from the solution that the province is presenting for Jasper. This does not deal with every staff accommodation issue that may be taking place. Large-scale resorts are working through their own processes with insurance companies. I know our tourism minister was just there on Friday and is in regular contact, as would be MLA Long. I'm aware of some of the solutions that some of those large resorts are looking at to deal with their staff accommodations if they've lost their staff accommodation buildings. And so there will be a variety of solutions, but this is the big step towards temporarily replacing the almost 300 homes that were burnt down. So I don't want to give the impression that this would be the only solution that will be worked at in Jasper to be able to care for individuals while the town is being rebuilt. I have to reiterate, this is an insurable disaster, and that puts some very significant parameters around what the federal and provincial government can and cannot do. Which is why, again, a creative solution like today with a $112 million investment from the Alberta taxpayer to be able to get the town up and running, I think is really, really critical. But we have to continue to work under those parameters that we've agreed to underneath an insurable disaster, which is why you see resorts, working through the process with their insurance company to be able to stand up their temporary accommodations for their staff as well.
Because you've said it many times, the houses destroyed were insurable losses, and that has some part of responsibility on the insurers and the homeowners. Yeah. But how do you walk the line between the needs in housing, which is about like 1,500 houses if we count the ones that were destroyed and the ones that were already lacking, and your government support? How do you walk this line between what's insurable, what you have to do?
Well, we're walking it, and it's not. We're pretty comfortable so far with the assessment that Jasper has done. Jasper may come back and show that need is bigger than the need that they've provided us, and as I have indicated, we're ready to react. I think now that we have a unique solution that appears to be a workable solution in place where we can stand it up quickly underneath insurable parameters that would allow us to expand if the need needed to expand. But this was there was a housing assessment process done to come up with that number. And as the mayor said, that may change as circumstance changed. But this is not a dartboard. The town didn't just throw a dart at the board and pick a number. They've given us a pretty clear need, and we're responding to that need.
Hi, Sean, Meadow City News. So 112 million, how much do you expect to recoup from selling these units after, and what was the ask from the federal government?
Well, look, for the feds, I've indicated to them I would like to see them share both the risk and the upside with us. We are also, of course, as the mayor alluded to, having conversations about both our disaster recovery programs and whether or not that would be the most appropriate way for the feds to fund it. But, you know, my viewpoint and what my official ask has been to my counterparts federally is that we share the upfront cost and we share the risk of any loss on this, but we'd also share the upside. The reality is the way these units go in, and with attaching them to long-term leases in the national park, we could be in circumstances where the taxpayer may profit at the end of it. I don't think significantly, but where there may be no loss, that would be the best case scenario. Alternatively, where we could lose significantly, I can tell you on camps, which is the only thing we really have numbers for, is that you lose usually upwards of 80%. We do not think we're in that circumstance at all for the option that we brought forward, but because we're the first ones to do it, I can't answer the question beyond that.
Should the feds pay for all of this? Because a couple weeks ago, Minister Ellis was in Ottawa, or testified in Ottawa, that this fire started in the national park, therefore it's a Canadian responsibility. And how is that going, asking for that $149 million back?
Well, I support Minister Ellis's position that this is a federal national park. It has very limited ability of the province to control the circumstance once the emergency took place. And we've laid out concerns in the past about the forestry management issues in the national park, which I know both ministers have put forward when they were testifying recently. From my perspective, I'm not focused on that right now. I'm focused on getting people into homes. And so my main goal right now is to try to provide some stability to Jasperites who are Albertans, so that they can rebuild their town. But I do think, and I do know, I should say, that those conversations will continue with the federal government about their responsibility. It is their national park. And it is certainly our viewpoint that they should take 100% of the cost. Whether that happens or not, we'll have to wait and see.
Hey there, Lisa with Global Edmonton. How will these modular homes change the future landscape of Jasper, the town of Jasper, essentially? I mean, I could be wrong, but you know, we've known Jasper to be a town where it was hard to even get a chain in there. Like, they have a standard, and they've had for a long time, of how homes will look or what restaurants can go in. And now here we're putting in these modular homes. Like, I don't think that's ever been allowed before.
Well, Jasper had some modular homes. The mayor could speak more to it, I think, more than you might think. That said, the product that we're bringing forward, again, I don't want you to be thinking of the trailer park you would have seen when you were driving around in the old days. This is the work that we're doing is with high-end manufactured home producers. Modular, in many ways, is the wrong word for it. And we're confident that it will meet the demands of Jasper and what they're trying to build, and that it will be long-term an excellent product. That said, we got to do something, and we need to get these homes stood up. And so, from my perspective, we're very comfortable moving forward. We would expect the town of Jasper not to delay us. I don't think that they will, and certainly we have indications from the National Park Service they'll do whatever they can to be able to support us to get these homes stood up. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I'm happy to supplement that, and I do appreciate the question and the recognition that Jasper, as an international tourism destination, has a standard, and it's important that we maintain that. And recognizing as well that the sites that have been selected and are now being serviced for this interim housing are the primary entrances to our community, one at the north end and one at the southwest corner of the community. So they will be highly visible. As you probably are aware, earlier this month, the federal government passed Bill C-76, which allows for the transfer of land use planning and development authority from the federal government to the municipality of Jasper. We are in discussions now, while that authority still rests with the federal government, to do a thorough review of the architectural motif guidelines, which probably most impact the area that you're speaking about. That is the look, the public-facing view of, as you say, modular housing. It will meet a standard that is appropriate for our international visitor destination. We recognize that that is an important thing, but we also recognize that although this housing is to fill an interim need, it will, as the minister indicated, become permanent housing. And so we will ensure that without delaying the process, it does fit within the aesthetic value of our community. And we are having those discussions now with Parks Canada. Parks has said from the beginning that they will remove all barriers to helping us recover. This will be one of those. There will be quicker permitting, but that does not mean that it will be insensitive to the aesthetic value that is important to maintain in our mountain community. So we understand the question. We appreciate it. They will be, as the minister says, modular might seem the wrong word, but we do have modular homes in Jasper now. They come in on the back of a flatbed truck, and they get assembled, and they get finished in an appropriate way with eaves and appropriate finishings that make them blend into the mountain environment that we are cognizant the world wants to see when they come to visit Jasper.
So would you say in some ways, an unfortunate situation, but it's almost helped remove a lot of red tape that has existed in terms of owning property and in the parks? Or is there worry that this could shift that? Because, you know, down the road when you do sell one of these, I'm going to guess that whoever's buying them it might be priced quite high, or it could be big companies, like who knows? It does open a lot of doors that never existed before, I would say, in some aspects.
I don't think that it will change the rules with respect to ownership and occupancy. Rules will presumably change with respect to exterior finishings on these houses. We know now from experience the dangers of having some products on the exterior of your house. And so we have an opportunity now to rebuild, and as people have said from the start, to rebuild better. That is different treatments on the exterior and on the roof of a house to prevent this again. But that doesn't mean that those treatments will be insensitive to the aesthetic value. We can manage both. In terms of ownership and resale, all of the land continues to be federal Crown land. The federal government, through Parks Canada, will continue to review every assignment of a leasehold interest in the town, whether that is a residential premise or a commercial premise, and they ultimately have consent authority over the transfer. So it's not as if changing the jurisdiction of land use planning and development at the immediate level changes who gets to own or what they get to own or how they get to use the land. Those matters will still be controlled. So this is not reverting us to some sense of the Wild West. It will still be a controlled environment, but built better than it was before.
Go ahead, yeah. Shaylon Skolsky with CTV. Just one follow-up that I had, you mentioned contractors. I know up until just even a few Mondays ago, I want to say Alberta was still calling for the needed for skilled contractors that I assume would be very helpful in the rebuilding of these modular homes as well as servicing these sites. How confident are you that we have the workforce to be able to get this done for January, or is that a challenge you're still navigating?
Look, we've been at a unique circumstance in Alberta right now where we've been able to double our residential construction capacity at the same time as sounding the alarm that we were running out of trades to be able to keep up with those who are moving here. That doesn't go away magically because of what took place in Jasper, obviously. That said, we've been in contact with Build Alberta during this entire process very closely to be able to make sure that we are doing whatever we can as a provincial government to be able to accommodate whatever unique needs it may take place to be able to get trades there. Build actually is doing their conference in Jasper, I believe, 2 Sundays from now or 2 weeks from now. I'll be there, so that I think that's them trying to show an indication that they stand with Jasper. We're pretty confident that we will get the trades that we need to be able to do the work that we need. But again, going to the manufactured process that we're laying out provides some opportunities as well, because now we don't have to house as many workers in Jasper to be able to do the interim housing, right? So we want the workers that are primarily in Jasper focused on building the permanent homes and replacing the homes that were burnt down. And this lets us do that manufacturing process off-site to be able to utilize more trades appropriately. So it gives us opportunities. But look, we are still short workers, and we sure hope that more people continue to look at Alberta and that we can continue with our incredible construction numbers.
Can I follow up on that? Like, Jasper in January, I don't think of that as being like prime construction season.
Yeah.
So how many of those 250 homes do you hope to have built and ready to go in Jasper, and how's that rollout going to go in the snowy cold weather?
Well, again, so lots of that work will take place inside warm warehouses and inside warm facilities, which is why we're going with this route. We think phase one, and to be honest, the limitations to the phases are more about us confirming demand. So if we end up with all of those units already being occupied or declared to be occupied by individuals, we will probably speed up our ambition, but I think we're looking between 75 and 100 of those units as early as January. Depends on supply.
Okay, we have.
I should actually say, sorry, Alicia, we did a process at a way smaller scale than this. I mean, obviously, last summer with Paddle Prairie after the fire there, and we were challenged to get everybody in by Christmas, about the same type of timeline, and everybody was in their homes by Christmas. So it is a doable format. Again, that was at a much smaller scale. The challenge will not be the Jasper town site, will not be weather. It will literally just be the manufacturing capability of the providers.
We have time for 2 more questions. We're going to take one from the phone and then come back to the room. Operator, please put through the next caller.
That is from Kelly Spiderman from the Globe and Mail.
Hey, Kelly.
Hi there. Thank you for taking it. Hi there. Thank you for taking another question. And Minister, just so I'm clear, you're looking for the federal government to eventually cover the entire $121 million cost here?
Well, I think we're mixing a couple issues up, but they all end up in the same spot. So the question I was asked, Kelly, was about the disaster financial program from the federal government. And Minister Ellis has presented that rather than it be covering 50 to 70%, depending on different topics in the program. I don't have the exact outline of the ratio for everything. He'd be better to refer that to, but he has indicated strongly to the federal government that they want to have that he wants to have a conversation. He believes that this was in a national park. It is 100% the jurisdiction of the federal government. And that he thinks it should be covered 100%. I support him in that. But the way I am moving forward right now, not even a focus of mine at all. What I'm focused on right now is making sure that we get 250 units of housing up to be able to help care for Jasperites and make sure the community can start to stand up and rebuild itself. What I have pitched to my federal colleagues is that we would look at sharing, again, 50-50 the cost of the interim housing process up front, and then we let the disaster recovery programs figure out the rest of the details later on. But if they're not willing to share that upfront risk with us, the province is going to take it on our own to make sure that we keep care of the Albertans that call Jasper home.
And just so I'm clear, that is the answer you're looking to them for in the next few days, whether they'll do this 50-50 cost share on this set of modular homes.
Yeah, and you know, we will move forward no matter what with any costs that the province absorbs associated with this, as we would for any other emergency costs associated with Jasper through the disaster recovery programs. And so we're moving forward. The feds have indicated to us that we should, and that's the right path. Our ask still to the federal government, though, is that for the people of Jasper, that we would love to see them stand side by side with the province, share these upfront costs that the Alberta taxpayer is now bearing, and send a clear message to Jasper that we're going to rebuild it. You know, that's for them to make determinations on whether or not they have the ability to do that in their government. But we're going to move forward with or without the federal government.
We have time for one more question.
Yeah, for Ms. Chambers. I understand a few weeks ago your residents were still in a hotel in Hinton. You were trying to kind of like find them spots across the province to house them. How's it going? And also, where is the new modular residence going to be built?
Yes, so I can answer that. Thanks. Need a stool. So right now, we, as of November 1st, will be down to, I believe, 6 seniors that will still be within a hotel environment. We have been working diligently across, so the Evergreens Foundation looks after kind of the west central region of Alberta for seniors housing. So we've certainly tried to house them within our existing facilities. Within Hinton, obviously, was definitely their first choice. We have quite a few in Edson, Stony Plain, Edmonton, some went as far as Wetaskiwin if they had family supports there. So the province has been incredibly supportive, helping us kind of get them moved, get them settled into what those places are. But the biggest thing really keeps coming back to they're really missing each other. And the thing that Jasper has always been incredible for is how well they look after their residents, the citizens, and each other. Everything was within walking distance. It wasn't a group of people that I could pick up and just plunk in a building downtown Edmonton. We had to really protect the core of who those residents were and what they wanted, and that's why we're so grateful to the ministry for the work that they did to make sure we could keep people together as long as possible, even if that was within the hotel environment. And now really actively looking at these 20 to 25 units, which will be built on a piece of property that's right across from our Pine Valley Lodge in Hinton. It's a beautiful piece of property in a very nice area of town, which some of them are already living within units in that area, but it will really bring back that kind of core community piece that they're missing so badly. It's a wonderful piece of land, and we're really excited to be able to bring them back in such a reasonable time frame. While we continue to try to do things to keep them together and get them together even despite their being displaced, they're actually doing quite well, and they'll be very excited to talk about this announcement.
I just add to that to be very clear. I mean, Pine Valley. First of all, if you ever had a chance to be in Hinton, get on the list because it's probably the nicest place to in the entire infrastructure that we work on with our housing authority providers. This population, the individuals that lost the seniors lodge in Jasper, is 100% Alberta's responsibility. I've been very clear about that from day one. This is a facility that belongs in our department, a group of individuals that we consider our responsibility, and we've been clear on that from day one, and we will do everything we can to accommodate them. I also need to recognize that the continuing care facility did survive, which is really good news. That eliminates some of the other challenges that we would have had, and certainly that would have been the much more medically compromised individuals that may have found themselves living in Jasper. So our goal right now is to keep everybody safe in the most appropriate level of care, but ultimately to give a clear message to them that our goal is to return them home, that our intention is not to, because they unfortunately lost their homes in a fire, that for some reason they'll have to go live in another community. I hope that they hear loud and clear from me as their minister that we're going to get them rebuilt in the community they desire to be in, and we're going to return them home because that is my responsibility.
Did you have a follow-up?
Or Mayor, how did you choose the spots, the lands that are going to be used for housing?
We have extremely limited options in Jasper. Our town boundary is set in federal legislation. That has not changed. There are a few parcels in town that have not been released by the federal government to anyone. Some of them were slated for residential reserve and being held for a time that we would need them. Now is that time. So we have selected the sites that were available. There is an additional site that is out of town. It had been the site of essentially a work camp for Parks Canada. We are looking at the opportunity to use that land as well, and of course that will take an agreement with the federal government, but Parks Canada certainly has indicated they're receptive to using land outside of the community. It is probably less appropriate to have families there. There's a highway to cross for kids to get to school and so forth, and for people to come in and be part of the community, but it might be an appropriate place for single individuals working in the industry. So we're looking at that as well. It would not be subject to quite the same expectation of permanency as will the sites in town. So the minister has repeatedly said that these modules will be solid. They can stay there as long-term housing to meet needs that were pre-existing. But where we look at the opportunity to have some interim housing outside of the town boundary on federal land, that is going to be more temporary in nature, we anticipate. But it's
the site 2B, which is like on the other side of Highway 69.
Correct. Correct.
Great.
Okay.
I'll just close with the main. main objective was to find land that was available now, obviously for speed, but also most importantly, that had quick access to services. And so all the locations that have been identified by the town of Jasper and the National Park Services meet that need, which is what's going to allow us to be able to move with speed. If we end up with a piece of land that could work long term, but all of the servicing is far away, we'd be looking at least another 6-7 months to be able to accommodate that. So we're very fortunate that we have some land that we can get services to quick.
Okay, that concludes today's news conference. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, guys.